Welcome to Mandorla. We humbly invite you on a journey with us as we explore and deep dive in what it means to be human through this great time of awakening, generously sharing wisdom and practical tools that have helped us on our path of ascension, introducing other conscious leaders within our community to expand the collective mind to new possibilities.
Mandorla inspires us to become balanced in body and soul, feminine and masculine, physical and spiritual, creating a bridge between heaven and earth. Within this podcast, we will be communicating with all parts of ourselves, understanding our true essence, discovering our life's calling, transforming and healing ourselves and the people around us. Without further ado, let us begin.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mandorla. Katrina and I are feeling in a real soft, nurturing, maybe a little bit tender place today. So we aren't kind of coming with this like excitement, which we usually do. But I made up for it with the hairstyle and the lipstick, bringing a bit of personality in there. Today we have had a bit of a chat before coming onto this episode with just reflections of what's been going on for us, which I guess is bringing up this really like soft, non-energized feeling in both of us. And so we have found some common themes between us both in what we're seeing in our reality and therefore what we're actually processing internally. And one of the themes that I'm seeing outside of myself really strongly right now is people getting stuck in loops. So we were just discussing the difference between a pattern, which is kind of when you're like, oh, this situation keeps showing up over and over again. And a loop is like how you go about life. What it feels like for me is almost like this robotic, I'm just doing the same things and I can't seem to break through. And so that's kind of the platform of what we're going to talk about today. We are unsure of what's going to actually come through. But I guess if we just started in communicating about what that is for us, what it looks like, even if we need examples. to go external first and then how we bring that into ourselves to be able to reflect on what our reality is showing us.
For sure. When you were just talking about loops, it came through so clearly that it can be, our comfort zone can be a loop, right?
Yeah.
We stay in these loops or these routines or these mundane groundhog days, for lack of a better term, because it's what we know and what can feel safe. Even if it's actually not safe, it's familiar.
Yeah.
And so this can keep us in these loops, but we can only create the same similar things when we're in these loops. So if we're saying and piggybacking off last week where we were like talking about abundance and what else is possible, you'll notice that, so we live the themes that we talk about, right? So last week was very high, like highest timeline priority, like possibilities, and we're in the very nurturing, soft, vulnerably going to say emotional season of what comes up from that, because we all have our comfort zones, and it's only human nature that when we expand out of those comfort zones that things come up. We can trigger other people, that triggers insecurities in ourselves, unworthiness, all these things which require gentleness and love and compassion. And so what Katrina and I have come to the conclusion of this morning is that we are both actually really amazing at holding other people in this, and we are practicing and learning very gently that we also need to be loving and kind and compassionate to ourselves when we're also learning these new expanded versions of ourselves.
Yeah, and I feel like a bit of inner child work can sometimes come into this theme when we're choosing to go, okay, this is where I want to go, like highest possibility, and soul's like, yes, this is where you're going. And then the body and, well, the emotional body goes, oh, okay, like in order to get there, this has to be looked at. And that is one of the things that came up for us, is actually looking at how we can be gentle and kind to ourselves when they are coming up. And so I've had probably over the past 5 days, you know, like I went from this, oh my God, all the visions, all the creation energy, like so much excitement for my future. It makes so much sense, like full clarity, to like in this bog. And I know that when that happens for me, it's showing me what isn't a match to being able to achieve those things, like what's in the way of that. And so what's in the way of that for me, that I was shown so beautifully, uncomfortably, irritatedly outside of me, was that I'm stuck in a loop right now. And it feels like it is. It's the familiar, it's the mundane, it's the robotic. I'm going to just do all the same things every single day because they make me feel satisfied. So like cleaning my house every day, like I'm like, yes, tick, I achieved that today. And it makes me feel good, but it's not bringing that bar forward for the things that I actually truly desire, and that my higher self knows is the new alignment for me. And so, yeah, it's like learning how to like sit with that and be like, oh, okay, so there's some things here that I want to shift in order to create the, like what's now super clear to me is my path. And not being down on self for not getting it, because I guess that there's some of the thoughts that could come up like, oh, why am I feeling like this? And actually, I really want to talk into this, because what it feels like for me when this occurs is it feels like I'm stuck. Like I'm like, why do I feel stuck when I have such epic visions of where I'm going forward? And it's almost like a resistance feeling of like, I don't know what to do. I feel lost. Like I felt like I had my purpose at the start of this week and my drive forward, and yet I'm feeling this lull in my body right now. And I think it's because it's going to require me to change the things that I haven't been prepared to change in the past.
Do things that you're unwilling to do because they're challenging and they're hard. Let go of stories that have, to some degree, whether they're positive or negative, have kept us safe, right? Like even if it's a victim, for lack of a better word, story, it was still providing something for us. So it's scary to let that go and sometimes be in an empowered state, because if there's not other people showing you that that's possible around you, it feels very lonely. And it feels like you can very quickly become the center of attention, not always in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
Which for me, this week has been a really tough week, and I'm probably going to get a little bit emotional and vulnerable here, but that's real life, right? And it's the you completely lost where I was going with that. That's the vulnerability, right? Yeah, that's the keeping the safe. I lost it.
Well, for me, what has been coming through for me is the shadowy aspect of like bitchiness. Like I'm just like, I'm going to say it, to fuck with everything. I just want to get a match and I just want to light it, and you're on your fucking own and I don't want to do this anymore. And I could and have absolutely in the past made myself wrong for stepping into that, because of course that's not how I want to show up. And of course it feels nice to be love and light all the time. But what I do know about that bitch is it's when that occurs inside of me, it's progress forward in going, not everything is love and light right now, and I want to see changes. And so it gives me the, I don't know why I want to say hourglass, but that's interesting. Like it gives me the visibility or the view into, okay, there's something that my body's just like, absolutely, this has got to change. And so, mine's gone into like a real like bitchiness. And that's hard to own, because nobody wants to say that they're bitchy, but that's how I felt. And I guess as a positive to it is, even if I were to make it outside of myself, I know it's actually internally, like myself being like, girl, you got to cut your shit. Like, enough is enough. And so because I'm able to not make it outside of me, or make it outside of me and go, really, that's just me talking to me right now, and bring that in internally, the bitch is actually powerful.
Yeah.
She's sick of her own shit. I'm sick of my own shit.
And owning that is so powerful. And I've just realized where I was right then is my practice is being okay with not always knowing the answers, or not always knowing what to say, right? And making that okay, making that human, that, because for me, a lot of people come to me for answers all the time, and especially in my reality right now, people are like, we need answers. What is going to happen next week and the week after? And I'm like, I can't actually tell you that. And it's being compassionate and gentle and loving myself that I'm human, and I actually just don't have those answers right now. I would love them for myself, but that's part of it, right? If we're going somewhere where we've never physically experienced or observed anyone else going, how can we possibly know the answers all the time? And that's okay. That's the loving, nurturing aspect that I'm practicing, of like, not only for me but for everyone else. Of course, sometimes we just need to sit emotionally and vulnerably in the unknown.
Well, and so like for both of us, we've worked so hard at creating with our reality so that we can get answers, right? Because there's a level of empowerment in that, in being able to get an answer so quickly. And I was explaining to Katrina this morning that this started about 5 days for me. Usually within 15 minutes, I can get a reflection in my reality and go, oh, okay, I see what they're trying to show me. But I have not had any clarity until yesterday. I got this tiny little droplet of information where I was like, oh, okay, I can see where you're taking me. And then this morning I got another little droplet, but still, like, I'm in the fog of it, like, which is why probably the bitch in me is just like, rah, like, enough is enough, cut your bullshit. Like,
what I know about the bitch, and this is from my own experience, is the bitch usually comes when you're protecting yourself from the vulnerability of, I'm in the fog, I don't know where I'm going. And if I'm still learning to detach from responsibility, like I'm a mum, I'm a partner, I'm a this, I'm a that, that's a very vulnerable place to be in the fog, when you're like, hang on, I have this identity of I'm taking people that I love here, and I don't know what the next step is. So that's that we can have those protection layers that can look like the bitch, that look like the hard ass, look at the I've got it all, like all the things, right? That's usually protection, because the vulnerability of what's under that is what we're learning to be okay with.
I see myself utilizing it a little bit different, but I love how, like, you explained that then, because I was like, oh, I'm going to try that code on and see if that is, but if it does feel actually a little bit slightly for me, like in how I'm utilizing the bitch. And because what I feel is under it is it, like, and how I'm utilizing it is, it allows me to go, oh, okay, right, like, there's a conflict within me right now, which usually, so if I take it to the outside, if it's a trigger on my external reality and I'm feeling like I want to bitch about that, then what it's actually doing is that outside reality is wanting to show me something and I'm not willing to look at it, right? So I make it a bitch about them. So internally, that's what's going on for me right now. And maybe you are saying the same thing, I'm just hearing it differently.
I think so.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Because as I was saying it then, I was like, oh, I can see the similarity in that. And so it's like okay, this is powerful. Like, I welcome the bitch in and go, what have you got for me? Like, what is my internal not willing to look at right now? And that's when I was able to get to the place of like, oh, okay, I've got to do the things differently. Like, I've got to stop staying in this same loop that just keeps on playing out, that's not getting me further. And so, and this is the unknown. This is where it takes me to the place of like, okay, reality, like, work with me, but reality's going, no, just be in it right now. And that's where I'm was saying about like how we've learnt this amazing art of communicating with our higher self and working with like collective energy and all the things so that we can get answers, so that we can move forward. But sometimes that's not the path, and that's what I feel like we are in right now, where it's like, actually it's okay to just be in it right now.
Be sad, have a cry, take yourself away, whatever you need to be is absolutely essential for to fully, in the clearest possible way, then take progression forward. Like oh my gosh, my week, honestly, I pride myself in being open to all the possibilities, right? And what I know is that when we fight things, if there's a charge, then the thing that we fight is going to get louder, right? We want to be neutral to all the possibilities across the board. And I think that I do that quite well most of the time. But what I realized was that what I was doing was I was like, I'm open to all the possibilities except that. And then my reality was like, we had storms during the week, and like in my area, we never get hail ever. And I was vulnerably in a new situation, and every time I'd try to figure out what my next step forward was, then it started to storm. And then I'd be like, okay, it's just a storm, it's fine, in a vulnerable situation. And then I would like try to figure it out and be like more controlling of the way that I wanted it to be in all my open possibilities, and then it started hailing. And then the harder I would try, the more my reality was like, this is not what you know. What you know is that you need to be open, because we've talked on here, right, about abundance, what we deserve, owning that. And my reality was saying, actually, you deserve more than being closed off to like closing some doors. Like that is not actually true to yourself. And I mean, that was deep in my unconscious, but your reality will absolutely not let you get past this. So I'm like, I had to come to a point where I put my journal away, and I was like, I'm just going to sit in this and be really sad and scared and vulnerable and all of the things right now, because it was just a reflection of my internal world, my scared little girl that was like, this is unfamiliar, this is out of my comfort zone, feeling alone, feeling all the things, right? And that's okay. That's what I had to get to. I had to actually just surrender and just be like, okay, if I was my own little girl right now, what would I do for you? I would just love on you, give you a hug, and just be like, it's going to be okay.
Nurture. And I feel like this is what we stumbled across in communicating about this topic today, is that there is like a little girl in all of us. And sometimes, like if we're stepping into an original age, we don't have the answers. We're little. We want to. And so like what you were saying is like being open to all the possibilities. I know you and I have both gotten to a place in our life where we've got us. But actually it's just really nice also to welcome in what other possibilities are there if we don't. And I think that's what the inner child wanted. Like how could we be nurtured? How could we be loved? How could we ask for what we needed for in that moment? Because when you're a child, you are helpless to a lot of the things that play out in your life. Like even my children now, like my son reminds me all the time and is like, Mum, can you tell me what we're doing? And I don't even think about it, because I'm just like, oh, mate, come on, you got 10 minutes. We got to get ready. We got to go. And that rocks his body. He wants to be more aware of it. And I'm like, yeah, because he's helpless to whatever it is that we are choosing to do for the day. We haven't all sat together and gone, okay, cool. Like, does everybody want to do this? And so when you are a child, you're being led. And sometimes we're not led in the best possible ways. And we know that as children. And I believe that like we both have had shared experiences in this. And so, you know, to be able to reflect back on that and go, yeah, like that was actually really freaking scary as a kid. And it's probably what made both of us choose to go, I got to have my own back. Like I've got to build this strength in me that I know that I've got me no matter what, because I don't know if everyone else is going to have me in my life. And that's amazing. Like that's a huge strength to have as a person, and it allows us to be whole within ourselves and not need for anything outside of us. But actually, what's really beautiful is to be whole and still be able to receive from outside, because we don't live those existences anymore that we did as children. And so we get to
That was exactly what the storm was showing me, because
Yeah.
I had this independence, this streak in me with my bitch, right? That was like, I've got that was my protection, because what was under there, which the storm brought out, was just this sad, scared little girl with full vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though I know that I've got me, the storm was like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, you have all these people in your reality that are literally waiting there going, let us help, let us love you right now. And I was in full rejection, like, absolutely not. No, I'm going this way. I've got to have me. No one else has got me. It's still the same stories, right? Which they're not real. They're not true anymore. It didn't have to be that. But what I'm seeing, and as we talk this out, like you and I spoke about the fact that sometimes just the pure essence of who we are, it triggers other people, right? They go into trigger with it. And what I'm actually seeing really clearly is that that's because we all have these scared, helpless little children in us, and we're just actually triggering the helpless little children in them too, because they're like, hang on, you're doing something that I don't know is safe. I've never seen this. I don't know how I feel helpless, especially if it's family members, because I can be quite like such a, what do you call it, a black sheep, or all of the different things, right? Because I do things so differently. But I actually, with full compassion, I think I'm actually seeing through this conversation that it's just because all the sad, like all the scared children, helpless children in them are going, I love you and I don't know where you're going, and I don't know if it's safe for me to follow you. I don't know how to support you. I don't know. And it's actually giving me more compassion to the triggers that I take personally, that maybe they're just not personal.
And it's like the unfamiliar, right? Which is what we've been talking about for them. You're going into the unfamiliar grounds. And so, yeah, like it could bring up a lot of things, positive, negative, great, not great. Like there's 100 million things that it can bring up for people. And I think, like, you know, as humans, we do tend to think that we know what people are thinking and what they're projecting and all the rest of it, but we don't know what their stories are or what they've been through. And the ultimate goal, obviously, is to get to a point where we can just be in love and compassion for them. But first, we've got to be able to be that for ourselves. That's the most important. And I actually, through talking this out, it actually was one of the conversations that came up when we were in Bali, and it's just landed for me now where it is in me. And I guess the curiosity around it is, why is it that being vulnerable and admitting that you don't have everything together, so the opposite of independent in me, and it's like, it's what's in the way of inviting in that support, because we've already know we've got us. And so in order to invite in more support, there's a vulnerability of like, what does that mean about us, or what does that expose us to, or and that is the unfamiliar state of which my bitch is like, enough.
Yeah, and I think that you just helped me get clear on it. It's like, what am I going to expose myself to? This feels safe because I don't have feedback right now from, you know, whoever's listening. It's just, you're a safe place for me, so it's safe. However, what I am learning through a really hard time in my life right now is that it's very clever of my body. I'm picking very closely who I'm having conversations and letting in, because what I can't and what I do not have the capacity for is other people's unresolved emotions. So because of what I'm going through, I just want clear channels that are gonna prioritize where I am right now, because I don't have the capacity to listen to your experience or what that brings up for you, because you haven't looked at it from your own childhood or from your own experience or from what other people have done to you. Like that's the vulnerability. So I'm learning through this conversation and getting more solid on what is good for me and when it's okay, because I do think it's so important to allow those suppressed emotions to come up and to be vulnerable and to be real, but choose the environment and the people and the situation carefully. Not with, again, we don't want to fight or resist anything. We just want to create a nest like what we would with our children, right? Just a safe, nurturing nest of love, to heal.
Yeah, I guess I am so for that. And normally I'm like, so I'm just speaking on behalf of myself. Normally I'm like, absolutely, that's necessary. And it's something that like I have learned in sister circles and with women, that this is so important to get to a place where you create safe relationships that can hold you without going into their stuff. However, I feel like there's a little bit of protection there still in doing that. And absolutely. Like, so I don't know. Like, this would be something that I'm pondering again. Like, it's unfamiliar and I don't know. But I'm like, if I've already done that in so many places, then what's the next growth for me around this? Because if I know I've solidly got me, yeah, I don't know what that looks like, but that's what's coming through to me is like there's a new layer of growth there, and that is where my body's like, oh, there's resistance here. I don't know if I'm willing to go to that next level of growth.
And I feel like I know something feels a little bit familiar, like what I'm working. What does it mean? This is the layer of protection, because if I let go of some stories that I have, we've all got stories, belief systems, right, of based on our past and what we've experienced. But if I let go of those stories, knowing that I'm no longer that 6-year-old child, like what does that mean for me? What am I going to need to embody? Who am I going to need to become if I don't have those stories anymore? And I don't know, like that just feels like relevant to what you're saying. I don't know what the stories are for you. I don't even know what the stories are for me, but I can feel that there is something that's holding me back, that familiarness that's ready to break away. But again, it's that new level of vulnerability and unfamiliar that leaves us going, okay, we're back to not having any answers. Yeah. So the only way I'm actually progressing through that is literally moment by moment.
Yeah.
It is like, okay, where am I right now? What am I feeling? What do I need? It is 100% a practice, because that from day dot, I don't care who you are, there's very few people that get taught from a child to assess what we need in each moment. Usually we're teaching our kids, and it's through no fault, we're just regurgitating parenting, right? Of like, how are you being considerate of that person? And which I'm all about consideration, but I'm not about consideration at the expense of not looking after self, right? That's the self-responsibility again. And so this is really hard. Like our age, after a whole, nearly 40 years or 40 years of conditioning to literally prioritize other people, we're the last ones that we actually think about. And so this is so brand new. So full compassion for where we're at right now. Of course, we're vulnerable and and softer because we need to be, because it's brand new. Yeah. So who knows? But it's moment by moment. It's like, okay, what do I need right now? Is it a hug? Is it asking for what we need? Is it practicing the discomfort of actually being like, I think I just need a hug. Can I have a hug? Like it's, I think I actually just need to be in my own energy. I know that there's other people with their own stuff going on right now, but I don't actually have the capacity, if I'm honest with myself, to nurture you when I'm depleted.
Yeah.
It's being real with all of these things, and it feels contradictory, to be honest. When you have loved ones that are going through something, it feels contradictory to what we've been taught, to put self first, take self away whilst they're in something. But really, what a gift you're giving them to show them firsthand an example of, if we all did that. Imagine if we all did that, and we were actually so good at self-regulating emotionally, energetically, physically, mentally.
Yeah.
We would progress, like we've talked about, would progress so much quicker. We've already seen that done, the possibilities of that done in Bali with 6 women.
Yeah.
But again, of course, we set this bar, and of course we're now learning that in the depths. You guys are witnessing us in the depths of the work right now. And I think it's really important, because we can show up in the fun of it and in the highs of it, because that's life too. That's what we're creating. But it doesn't mean that with each new creation, there's not some form of work.
Yeah, well, I guess it's like whenever I've spoken about calling it in abundance or manifestation, and what I know to be true is that our heart, like everything that we want and desire, is moving towards us. And I see like speed humps like in the way, and they're the things that have to be looked at. Otherwise, there would be nothing in the way of those things landing in our physical already. And so I think it's just the process of what we're going through and being okay with right now. Like I'm on a speed hump, and this speed hump feels deep in there. And that's why I don't have the clarity, because accessing sometimes emotions that are that deep, there's a damn reason they got put so goddamn deep. 100%. And because it's hard to actually completely sit with that feeling. And I know for myself that there have been very few experiences that I have been able to lean into that actually allow me to go to those depths of myself, which indicate to me how deep they really are. Because I'd say I'm a pretty conscious person, and I'd say I'm pretty good at exploring most areas, but these ones for me, they feel so far out of my reach or of accessing. And Katrina and I actually did a activation. Would you say it was an activation? I'm not sure. In Bali, yeah. In Pyramids of Chi, that literally had me walking out with a mind blown. And so basically there were 2 pyramids. I don't know that it matters, but I'm going to explain it anyway. One was the moon, and so the feminine, and one was the sun, the masculine. And so this particular activation, we walked into the moon tent, the feminine, and inside that tent they had these water beds, single, and so I don't know, maybe 12 of them in the room, maybe a bit more. And underneath the waterbed, they had speakers. So the music that was played would actually, at a cellular level, vibrate within your body. And then on top of that, you laid there with your eyes closed, and it was pitch black in there. All the walls were painted black. And they had a specific light that shone above your third eye and flickered at a certain resonance that would actually take you into a DMT experience without having to have plant medicine. And so fun and exciting to like explore these things, and how blessed we are that like technology has created such a thing that you can walk inside a tent and literally go into visual experience, which sometimes can bring up healing, right? And so we've gone to do this experience, and I do want to mention, because I think that it does matter, the music that was played, there was a guy there that had a didgeridoo, there was a gong, and so they consciously would feel into the room and into each body, and they would play music accordingly. And so it was so potent, and my gosh, I was like actually mind blown, and I was like, why do they not have anything like this in Australia? Like, why do we not? Because what I was able to witness in that journey and what I was able to visually see, and some of it I'm still aware of the visuals, but it hasn't landed in the understanding of why I got given the visuals. But what it actually allowed me to do on a deeper note, which is where I'll say, you know, it's only been certain activations or certain things that I've lent into that have allowed me to access it, was like a deep sadness for understanding. I choose certain ways of communicating with people because of my love that I have for them, and I don't want to rock their bodies. And I know that I am amazing at getting fierce truth come through my mouth, that in my childhood and in my home, like it's abrupt and it's like, whoa. And it's also really powerful. And it's sometimes what people need, but doesn't mean it feels fun for them in the moment. And so what I was shown in this activation was this sadness of oh, like I'm not willing to do the thing that I need to do. And the thing that I need to do in that moment is be in my truth and give that direct communication because it's actually best for everybody. And I've been unwilling to do it. And then I was able to then sink into like the depth of my heart or the depth of an emotion that I didn't know existed. And then I all of a sudden was like, oh my gosh, I can see this in my mum. And then I all of a sudden, like I had all these tears of releasing of like understanding from a perspective of being a child in my mum's home of why it was that she was choosing not to speak up in certain situations that I was vulnerable to as a child. And it was actually for the same reasons I don't do it. And that's because of this love that we have for people and being able to go, oh, I don't want to hurt you. But actually, sometimes it's needed. And I know the outcome of that because I was the child in the vulnerable position. And so I'm like, it's like, I can't unknow that now, but I don't know how to explain it, the depth of the emotion. Like I walked out of that tent and I was like, oh my God, like I just need to release this. Like I needed to cry. And so because I felt vulnerable, because everybody outside of this tent has no idea where you've just been. And they're in a totally different energy. They're in like the excitement of being at this place and eating their yummy food. And I've come out like, holy moly, like with this like bubbling, like I couldn't have stopped it if I tried. And so I've beelined for the bathroom to the toilet so that I could have a cry. And then I was like, okay, good, I've got this. All right, cool. I've gone to walk out and walk to the table where I had friends sitting who were like so excited to hear about our experience. And I was like, oh no, there's more. And so I like beelined for the front, like, because I was like, it's important to honor this right now. Oh my God, I didn't even know it existed. 3 days or 2 days prior, I was communicating about events that were very much linked to this in completely no emotion at all. Like there was no emotion present in those moments. I was like, oh yeah, like this is what played out and blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't even connected to what it was actually wanting to reveal to me. And then so, yeah, I went into this. And so...
Because you can't know.
You can't know.
What's
you can't.
there.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't know what's 5 steps ahead if you haven't actually investigated or allowed what's present to come up. How can you know? It's like these are the unknowns that we need. And we had completely different experiences. Same tent, completely different experiences. My lesson in that was actually... I don't need to know, which is exactly what I just spoke into, right? So now only through this conversation I've gone, that was the beginning of this journey
Always
for
in the
me.
polarities.
Right? Always in the polarity.
Always, yeah.
Because you had this full-on experience journey. Dom did as well. And I was like, I was just told to just be in the physical experience without, because for me, my past is... it makes me feel safe and in control if I know all the things, right? If I know why things are happening, what's next. It's a safety. And I was told, that you're about to go into a whole new, unknown, unfamiliar place and you need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's important for you to get that.
It was. Yeah. And I was like, this is new. I want a cool story to tell. I was just like, I think I fell asleep.
Well, you were getting visuals, but right?
I had awesome, but it was like kaleidoscope.
Yeah,
like it was a cool experience, but oh my God, I know I got to the depths because I literally had to go back to our brand new villa, which was really exciting, and go to sleep, right? Because my head was
that's right. Yeah.
And it was, for me, headaches are always a release. So I could feel how deep the trauma was that actually was like,
that you don't have to understand.
I didn't have to understand. It was like, just go to sleep and sleep it off. Like, be that, yes, we're in Bali, but connecting in the moment and go, what do you need right now? And although we're in Bali and I want to hang out with my friends, I actually just need to put myself to bed.
Yep.
And then I woke up the next day, like, light. And
no one else had slept but you.
Right? Everyone else, I was like, how'd you sleep? I slept amazing. They're like, terrible. And I was like, oh.
There was legit, I don't know what kind of band this was, but I think they were banging on bin lids. Literally outside our windows, and this one's just slept and I've woken up. I'm like, I did not sleep a wink. I'm like, who practices on bin lids?
Right. And I
Yeah.
was like, what band? I slept amazing, right? But it's like, yeah, it was the deep stuff being cleared, but I didn't need to know. I just
Yeah.
needed to be into it,
Yeah.
in it, surrender to it.
Yeah.
And that's actually coming home and, yeah, being the example of that. You can still move forward. It's like, I think people go into this story of lack of productivity or how can I keep safe if I don't know the answers, when really it's just an essential part that we skip all the time. Sometimes that toddler does not know why he is just full of emotion and having a cry on the floor. We don't go, we probably do go, what's wrong, and try to fix it, but maybe that's not what that toddler needs. It's just, if we just let him have a cry, know that we're here, come for a cuddle, come for a chat. If you want to go play after it, that's fine. I'm here, but you've got this. Like, you don't even need to know what is actually going on for you right now.
Yeah.
It's a crucial part of the puzzle that I think we just miss. It's not normalized.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's being taught in society. And again, so it's like you can go into that and be like, oh, actually, I just need to sit with this right now and I need to be unproductive or whatever. And then society's going, who are you to do that? Like, to just let go of all responsibilities. Like, I walked through this, like, when I went into exploring my feminine for 3 years, because my masculine was so bloody solid that I literally had to go, signing out of this business. I'm signing out of this business. Oh, I'm signing out of my husband's business too. I'm not helping him anymore. You're on your own. And then, you know what? I'm signing out of the responsibility of the house. I'm signing out of the responsibility of being a mother. Like, I had to let myself go to all those places so that I could step back in and do it in a healthy way.
Imagine the projections you got from all of that.
Well, they were not fun, and they were my own.
Yeah.
So yes, like, you know, because that happened maybe 2 years ago that I explored that 3 years. But yeah, at the time I was like, yeah, but like, if people knew like that I was just in the garden for the day, like, that was one of my biggest ones where I'm like, oh, when I can get to a point where I effortlessly flow down to that garden and feel so good about I'm choosing me right now, I was like, that's when I know that I've worked through this. And it's not this or that. It's like, now I can go to my garden whenever. But before, I'd be like, no, push through all the projections, push through what people think about you, push through, because the only way for me to get neutral with it, because my body's stubborn as shit, is to actually continue to show up for myself in that way where it becomes more normal.
Yeah.
Fuck what's normal to everybody else. We're not here to be normal.
Honestly, what I've learnt about this is when you drop all the balls and you have no responsibilities left, which most people do not allow themselves to get to that point, and we're all still working on it. What I know is that we actually organically will choose to do the most important things that are aligned with our values, which are looking after our family and our children and our husbands and all of the things.
Yep.
We choose that because that's who we are, but there's a difference between doing things from obligation and choice.
Oh, it's been huge. Yeah.
So, and then that goes into then what where abundance flows effortlessly when we're so choosing from the right place where we put our energy and our hearts and our contribution. Abundance flows. We get to know ourselves at a deeper level, an authentic, deeper level of like, ooh, that made me feel amazing. I want to do more of that. That is apt, and it's from a place of choice. Everyone deserves choice.
Because, but like, so vibrationally, we are a match to all of our dreams and desires coming to us when we're in a higher state of vibration. Doesn't mean you don't go into your depths, because usually to get to those heights, you got to visit some depths. They're not like void. But when you were talking then, I was like, yeah, because if we stayed in the old system of doing all the things because it's our responsibility and like it's what society expects of us and all the rest of it, right? Showing up in a vibrational state of feeling like we have to do something instead of choosing it is a whole different vibration. So of course, none of our desires are going to come to us when we're in that vibration, and it can be the same thing, except you're choosing it instead of feeling like it's a burden that you have to do it. Like it's I could get up and I could do those same things in my house, but because I've chosen to do it now, as opposed to before where I was dragging my feet, a whole different set of vibration.
And that is seriously one of the massive passions, my passions and reasons I'm here, is because I swear obligation is my kryptonite. I dig my heels in so much if I feel obligated.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me can be like, yes, I will only, and I'm living this more and more, I'll only do things if it's my choice, but take the obligation away, 9 times out of 10, I bet you I do the thing that I'm supposed to be obligated for anyway, but choice is so important. And whenever I get passionate about these things, it's not just for me. I want this for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves freedom of choice. Everyone deserves to choose themselves. Everyone deserves moment by moment to tune into their needs and take themselves away in whatever capacity that they deserve.
Yeah.
Like this is across the board.
Yeah.
Equality, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is like another aspect of shadow, right? It's like the rebel who's like, I refuse to do it out of obligation. I will not. You know, people can look at the rebel like in the shadow, but actually like the power of that rebel is like, I'm going to change shit up here because I will not. Like I am going to stay in a higher state vibration because I'm going to choose this because I want to do it. I'm not going to do it because you think that it's a set of rules that I have to follow.
And I've played in the rebel for a lot of my life. And what I know about the rebel, and this is where I get super excited for teenagers because I understand them more, is that the rebel fights against what it doesn't want because of the protection, right? It's protecting, it's trying to. The rebel is trying to protect their authenticity, what they're here for, their hearts, all the things. That's what my rebel used to fight. I'm like, we don't need to be the rebel. We can be for as long as we get what we get out of that. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, put that energy instead of the fight into creation of what it is that you really want, you really desire. What are you passionate about? Live against society's wishes. Yep. They're going to be triggered anyway, but you pick your heart in some degree in the experience of life. We all have to do things that are out of our comfort zone and challenging, right? But you choose which challenging. Is it challenging being the rebel and having to fight and having to have all of that energy go into, staying in the loop, but you're just fighting the loop, right? Or you can pick your heart and exit the comfort zone, which goes back to what we're talking about. Exit the loop. Yeah. Get a bit wobbly. Yeah. Have compassion for yourself while you do that. That's probably the biggest thing I want to highlight in this whole episode. And then get passionate about showing the way there for yourself first. And then, be the pillar of light for others.
I really feel like the audience could benefit from understanding how to spot a loop. So I feel like let's talk about that because, I mean, we can talk about loops, but unless you're actually consciously aware of like, oh, this feels like a loop or that looks like a loop, how would someone recognize what is a loop in their life?
All right, I can use, I hope they don't mind, but my daughter and her boyfriend, to start off with in there, because they're only 17, but they've been together for 2.5 years. And the beginning of their relationship was the cutest because they used to get really creative and have like kitchen days and they would go on these adventures and they would have like this whole list of the most creative things that they used to do together. And I loved it and it inspired me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to think more outside of the box and do that. Yeah. So they were fresh in this, right? And what I've noticed of late was that they got stuck in a loop and they're just doing the same routine again. There's no spice, there's no adventure. Like I think probably in the last week they've spiced that up a little bit and they are making new choices. But I was like, guys, what are you doing? You went from the most inspiring creative couple to bleh. And I don't know what got them there, but to me that I spotted that loop a mile away from what I've experienced that they have the ability to do versus that, right?
And I think that Hayley is just one example of every couple I know out there, including myself. And I mean, I've been together with my partner now 20 years. Like this is something that like we have to make a choice to review and go, where are things feeling stale? Where are we doing? I don't want to be your best friend that lives with you. Like, I want to have fun with you. I want to, and so like, it's a great example of like being stuck in a loop. We can be stuck in them in so many areas, right?
Yeah, actually, another thing that came to my mind when you're talking about friendships, I used to find this. I had to remove myself from a loop because it was me, but I would get with a particular friend and I think I may have even talked about this before, we would talk about the same things or go into like a pattern of the negatives that were happening in our lives, right? And we found the connection, we would connect on a loop of negativity versus creation.
Yeah, right.
And I think actually that might blend into the last example that I've got. They might be a little bit in that too. But what I actually had to do, and you do it differently, whoever, case by case, but I actually had to remove myself from that friendship for a while until I got solid, and then come back in with fresh energy of, I actually just want to have fun with you.
Yeah.
Let's go and do something fun that we wouldn't normally do, not get stuck in the chatty, because when we chat, we don't tend to take it in a positive direction.
Way. Yeah.
So I literally removed myself until we could have a fresh start and be like, now it's like, oh, cool, what fun can we go have?
Yep.
But these are the things that like we can just be so unconscious to it until we become conscious to it.
Yeah.
Until we start looking for these things that we're like, and 100% of the time it's like, how do you feel after you've been with someone? How do you feel after you did that thing?
Yeah, right. Okay. Because I'm like, as you're talking, I'm like, there are heaps of like little loops. The loop that I feel like I'm breaking through right now, and maybe this is why we needed to go through that, is it feels like a glass ceiling. So it feels like in all areas of life.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere's getting an upgrade. It's like,
of course, we came back from Bali and went, we want this to be our normal. And we're like, oh, this is really tough work. And it is, of course, because if we want holiday, like some people would be like, that's a once in a lifetime. I got told this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that many times. And you and I are like, no, this is going to be our normal. But
like, how many times a year can we do this?
How can I live this day to day? I don't have to go to Bali to live that lifestyle. Like, I want this all the time for everyone. I know it's possible. I have that hunger, that passion in my belly. But of course, we're going to have to do the work. See, people like work hard for it, and they mean in business to make money. It doesn't have to be like that. We're still working. I'm still, I don't believe it has to be hard, but that's just where we're at right now.
Yeah.
We're doing the work in order to create a new vision. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, well, the excitement for me around, I actually want to get to a position where if my body, and I'm tuning into my body, is like, you need to go take a week away, there's something for you there. Because I know I do a lot of grid work and I do things in these countries that are beneficial for everybody. And of course the collective may not see that, but I want to get so solid in myself and create a reality in my life that is a match to me for me to be able to go, this is where I need to be here this week, and be able to create that change in that moment. And not go, so where I have been at is full freedom to go wherever I want, but I'll plan it for
2
X,
years
Y, Z.
time, right? Like,
Yeah, like, well, for me, it was like, 2 holidays a year.
Yeah.
I don't even want to play in a field where there is even a cap of this is how much you're willing to allow yourself to have. But instead be like, if my body says it's go time, I want a reality that goes, yes, you're supported to do so. And so that's huge, like to be able to bring that in and to be able to have a support system in my home that would support me to be able to do that, and structure within the home to do that, to be able to financially have the ability to go, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
To create investments, because I won't do, and I've realized this about myself this week, I won't do A plus B equals C. So I won't be like me plus work equals money. It's not my system to play in. And it doesn't mean that the whole of our world shouldn't be playing in that system. We need doctors, we need nurses, and we need people that it is a fuck yes for. For my body, I'm not here for that. And a card that like I pulled when we were in Bali. We had this epic experience where we had tarot cards that picked our meals. And my future was bringing in a new paradigm. Not everybody is here to do that, but I know 100% it is, which means that the way that I do things is going to be so goddamn different than anybody else. And so as soon as I got to a point where I was like, this is the vision of what I want, and I'm enough. I don't have to do A plus B equals C. Okay, cool. I believe that. I'm solid with that now. Okay, universe, show me like what I need to do that. And literally got 2 visions immediately of 2 investments that don't take my time, but are investments for me to be able to create this reality. And then that's when I went into the loop. So the loop is for me, okay, like that's what you want. This is a whole reality that needs to shift in order for you to get there. And you know what, as much as right now it's like soft and nurturing and like just go easy, I'd choose it over and over again. All the depths that I go to, I choose it over and over again.
When I'm in the moment, I'm like, there's got to be an easier way. And I'm still staying true to that. That's where I'm like, there is an easier way. When I figure it out, I will share openly. Yeah. But I'm like, when you're in it, sometimes it's tough at times. And then if we let it be tough and surrender to it quicker and quicker, it gets to the highs that we're actually creating and we're moving towards.
Yeah, well, I mean, like with you saying, you know, like there is an easier way. Like it is becoming easier and easier for us. Like we're already doing that.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it didn't feel so much because we had to build some muscles.
It's still building muscles.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I do think that there is an easier way to do it. And I think it's when, like, this might not be true. There might be something even easier that you know that somebody can just make a decision without doing anything. But for me, it's like the vessel has to be cleared for more light to come in, and the more light I can bring into these deep places for myself, like doing the experience in those pyramids that day, the more I do that, the lighter everything feels. And so light equal easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, more of that, please.
More of that.
I already feel like we actually shifted so much in this conversation because my body feels more passion, less
density.
Yeah. So thank you for being part of that experience. And sometimes it just does take a creative conversation, because that's what this is. It's a creative conversation. We're learning just as much as anyone we're sharing this with. Yeah. We're in it. We're live. We're going through the motions. And
I think it's really important to show up in these too. So, and, you know, it's not always comfortable going, okay, well, I'm going to have to be a little bit vulnerable today, and I'm in a lull right now and I'm not feeling my best self, and stepping into it anyway. And that's what we want for our children, right? So to high five.
For everyone.
Yes. Examples for ourselves. Examples, it is what leads the examples for others. And so I think that's really important. And I guess I want to send a little message out there to everybody who may be going through these lulls and these moments, and just, I guess, a reminder to love yourself and realize that we're human and we're going to go through this. And what can you do today to nurture yourself through those moments? That's all from me.
So much love.
Mwah.
Bye. Thank you for joining us in another episode of Mandorla. We want to acknowledge your contribution in the co-creation of our new evolved world.
Sending you all so much love, and until next time, remember, you are the creator.